Ahead of the much anticipated nane demonstrations, there are a number of things which are emerging. There are a number of things which are building up towards that day that are of great concern, and that should be of great concern to all Kenyans. And I'm going to cover them thoroughly on my show today. So karibu sana. But before I proceed, I need to ask you a question. Are you aware of what the National Intelligence Service and the DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, are doing to save the Ruto presidency? Do you have any clue? Because there's some very interesting developments there. Yeah, just stay with me, and I'm certain you'll get very fascinated towards the tail end of my show today. Now, the very latest is that Kenyans living in the United Kingdom are planning a huge Occupy Kenya High Commission in London demonstration on the 8th of August, nane. And this development offers a very huge clue, that should be very useful to the Kenyan government in dealing with the Kenyan crisis, but which unfortunately I am certain the government has missed and will miss. You see, yesterday I was having a debate with another analyst, and we were trying to figure out whether the government of Kenya is just being naive, or they're not naive, they're seeing what is happening here and they've just decided to ignore it, bury their heads in the sand. We were having that debate because, you see, one of the things that is very clear about this Kenyan crisis is that never before in the history of the motherland has the public, the ordinary mwananchi, the voters, the people of Kenya, never before have they been so angry towards the government. This has never happened before. Of course, we have had many instances in the past where the public have not been happy with the government. There has been a lot of anger. For instance, in 1975, after the murder of the then very popular politician, legendary J.M. Kariuki, Josiah Mwangi Kariuki. Another example, during the 1988 infamous Mlolongo elections, general elections, where there were instances all over the country where the shorter line won the election against the longer line. You see, Mlolongo was the queue voting system that Moi tried to introduce. The aftermath of that was a lot of anger from Kenyans against the government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi and against Moi's idea of introducing Mlolongo voting. And it is instructive that that was the beginning and the end of the queue voting system in Kenya. It is also instructive that in retrospect, that was the beginning of the end of the Moi government. Because the famous Sabasaba riots of 1990 followed, and the country reverting back to multi-party politics in 1991, and intense pressure also followed. But still, never ever before has the anger of Kenyans towards the government reached where it has reached today. Okay? For anybody trying to compare the level of anger amongst Kenyans today with what we have seen in the past looks like kids' play. But amazingly, the Ruto regime is behaving as if nothing is happening, as if it is same old, where instant solutions like forming a broad-based government will solve everything. That is how the Ruto regime is behaving. And yet this latest development about Kenyans in the United Kingdom planning a major protest at our High Commission there, this should tell anybody who had any doubts before that this thing is not just Gen Z's. This thing is the anger of Kenyans, and it is deadly for the Ruto regime. There should be no doubt about that. But even more dangerous, and what should be of great concern to the government, is that this anger is not going down, and nobody is making any effort to cool it down. In fact, what is happening is that developments in our country are just causing it to escalate. Let me give you a few examples. The Nairobi Funeral Home, people from my generation will know it as the city mortuary, have come out with their own very interesting figures, where they've told us at the height of the anti-government, anti-tax protests, a total of 247 bodies were checked in and identified. Now, of course, it is impossible not to link this to the demonstrations and nothing else. Not road accidents, not domestic squabbles, not anything else. They are linked to the demonstrations. Now, what does this tell you? Among other things, it tells us, it confirms that the Ruto administration's strategy of dealing with the protests was kuua watu, kumaliza watu. The analyst I was talking to, the analyst on Kenyan politics I was talking to yesterday, was calling it a massacre. Now, we cannot rule out the possibility that some genius, some genius somewhere got the bright idea to release these statistics in order to scare away demonstrators, any would-be protesters on the 8th of August. You know, this facility is government owned. It's owned by the government of Nairobi County, which we all know is very close to the national government of Kenya. And if this is true, then it means that really the government does not get it, has never gotten it, because somebody is ignoring something very important, the anger that is building up. And they're not asking themselves before they do anything, will this help cool down the public, or will this escalate the hasira amongst Kenyans? And there is something else the government has done, either knowingly or unknowingly, to help the Gen Z-led revolution cause. Let me put it this way. By forming the broad-based government and including members of the opposition in cabinet, what has happened is that has drawn the battle lines very clearly. And on one side is the political class, and on the other side is the rest of Kenya. Now, is that a good thing for the Ruto administration? Will that help the Ruto administration survive or not? I think the answer is obvious. In fact, if I can put it bluntly, it is very bad. It is extremely deadly. Does not augur well for the survival of the Ruto administration. Because seriously, how does somebody from the opposition, from ODM, suddenly join the Ruto administration and suddenly starts defending Ruto policies, which is what started this whole thing in the first place? Does that make sense to you? Anyway, while you still digest that, please allow me to introduce our sponsors for today's show. Now, our sponsors believe that this is truly a drama bin drama moment, and I will leave you to decide that for yourself. But here goes. Drama bin drama, Arab drama, ole drama, side drama, zote pamoja. Can you imagine this property in Malindi? Those of us who have been lucky enough to visit this coastal dream holiday destination will agree with me that it is unforgettable. Yeah. Can you imagine property at Kakuyuni, Malindi? 15 minutes drive from the Malindi airport, and also 15 minutes drive from the Watamu junction, the junction to Watamu. Very beautiful place, and a whole 9 acres of it now available for sale. It can be yours for the price of, wait for this one, only 8.85, and even that is negotiable. I have to admit, even I was surprised. A deal which is too good to be true. Yeah, but fortunately, it is from one of our members on this channel. But you can speak to him yourself if you're interested. You can see the telephone number on your screen right now, 0722 700 572. Why don't you give him a call and move this discussion forward? Who knows, you could end up being the very, very lucky one. Now, the build-up which we are seeing towards nane tells us very, very clearly that this particular Thursday, nane day, will definitely not be a good day for the Ruto government. It tells us that the protests and demonstrations of that day, we should just really brace ourselves for them. That is really what this is. Because the anger is building up, nobody is dealing with it. In fact, people are ignoring it. The reasons for somebody to join the protests are increasing by the day. Even somebody who may have had lukewarm support for the Gen Z-led revolution, things are now changing too fast, so that it will be impossible for the vast majority of Kenyans to be lukewarm towards this. And of course, this cannot be good for the government. And the biggest concern of all is the plan protesters have. I know some of us may have forgotten. What we are being told is that they are not planning to go home on that day. Yeah? Now, as to whether that plan of theirs works or not, because the government is preparing itself fully for this day, whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But already the very thought of it, the very idea, is rather scary. But there's something else that makes me even more anxious, and that is the days leading to Thursday. Because if you caught an earlier video of mine, I discussed the possibility of an event, a terrible one, designed to preempt nane, and an even more terrible thing than the worst thing that can happen, or the worst things that can happen on nane. And so those of us who are in prayer should continue to sink deeper and deeper in prayer against evil. Now, on to the question I started with very early on my show today. What is the intelligence community? The NIS. What is the DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, doing right now? What are they so busy doing in an effort to save the Ruto presidency? Now, the answer to that question is going to shock you, and also emphasizes and underlines very boldly what we have been saying on this channel for some time now. The government still doesn't get it. All efforts, very massive, and huge resources are being put into discovering, getting evidence of who financed or who is financing the Gen Z revolution. Now, even if it is true that initially somebody plotted this and financed this and remained chini ya maji, invisible, even if that is true, that information at this juncture may not be useful to the government. Why? For the simple reason that the revolt has spread well beyond the Gen Zs and those who started it to virtually all Kenyans from all walks of life, from all generations, right across the country. To put it bluntly, that train has already left the station a long time ago. And obviously, it would be much more useful for those who are chasing that train to move to the next station, to move to other stations where this train is anticipated, rather than concentrating all the efforts on where it all started. And of course, as always, I don't mind if you have a different view from mine. It's okay. But this is something I'm very sure about. But alas, maybe the Ruto administration were destined to read this wrong. Maybe it was decided by fate a long time ago that they would get it all wrong, which would speed up the exit. Maybe they were destined to leave power while still very confused, while still not understanding what exactly happened here. Maybe that is how it was meant to be. And that is probably the only explanation that makes sense for anybody trying to understand what is happening in the motherland. Now, this is truly the season of exposure. Because as Kenyans marked August the 1st, remembering the botched coup of 1982, a lot of information has suddenly started to emerge. And this information has even spread out to other issues of great concern to Kenyans, to other mysteries that are yet to be solved, like the Saitoti, Professor George Saitoti, helicopter accident. I'm telling you, this exposure of sensitive, previously unknown information is so much that it is difficult for most Kenyans to take in and digest. But of course, most of it is not news to regulars, those who have been with the Kumekucha brand for a number of years, because they have had this information for a long time. And in case you're in the group of those who don't know what I'm talking about, you now have the perfect chance of getting all this information, plus all my previous special reports, in case you missed all of them or some of them, in an amazing package that will cost you only 19.99 Kenya shillings, 1,999, or $15. You can see details on your screens right now on how you can get this very valuable package in your email, and ultimately in your library of sensitive information that not many people have. From yours truly, stuff about the Saitoti chopper accident that will just blow your mind. Crazy information about the aborted coup of 1982, coupled with very recent information in my recent special reports that is now more relevant than ever, like the one about Ruto secrets that are still not in the public domain, and also on the General Ogola chopper tragedy. A truly amazing package for only 19.99. And of course, because of the sensitivity of a lot of this material, This offer is available only for a very short time, maximum 48 hours. So you'll need to move fast to avoid being left out. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.